All right, here we are. Welcome everyone. This is our live stream number 4. Hobby-Wan Kenobi here. All right, we are gonna get working on the Mirage. As you can see, painted up, ready to go. These are mixed Tamiya colors. I went ahead and just kind of eyeballed them. The light gray I got pretty good initially, and then the blue gray was a bit too light. So I sprayed it and kind of double checked my references and decided to go a little bit darker. So we are a bit darker here. I've got the black nose cone and the refueling probe in the front here, and the vehicle is the same light gray on the bottom, and this is typical for the Mirage. Okay. At this stage, not all of the details have been painted exactly the way I want. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. So I'm going to need to do some silver here in the refueling probe and a couple other little colors here and there, but all of that will be done once the model is nearing the weathering stage. Lowered the flaps. I thought it was going to look pretty good, so this is pretty realistic for this aircraft as well. And then this morning got a gloss coat on, sprayed with my Grex spray gun, which puts out a lot of paint, and that's really why you get a spray gun as opposed to an airbrush. With gloss coats, you really do want them to go fairly heavy in order to get the shine. Okay, you don't want to do. I find you don't want to do light coats. That's really reserved for a flat coat. So yeah, I'm very happy with how it turns out. I think the Grex is working out great. That gloss coat goes real quick. You got to have enough in your supply to be able to, to do this right. I didn't want to go super crazy and sort of polish anything out at this stage. I'm just putting decals on. After the decals are on, I will then put more coats of gloss. And at that point, I'll decide if I want to sort of polish anything out, get any sort of the rougher spots out. But for the decals, I do a gloss coat. I know some people swear that we don't need gloss coats. I get that. I understand the reasoning behind that. But for me, I like to have the gloss coat. I like to be able to move the decal around without, fear of ripping it. And I also feel for me, for whatever reason, that my decals work out. There's less silvering when I'm doing gloss coats. And again, I could argue with somebody about it and have on Facebook, but enough said about that discussion, I think. So at this point, when it comes to decals, it's very, individual, right? You can either do a gloss coat or not, whatever works for you. So anyway, so that's where we're at. Very excited with how it looks. Did the freehand camo. Probably would have been good to have a slightly sharper edge. A lot of the aircraft have just a slightly sharper edge, but I figured this was going to be good enough. And I'm really pleased with how it turned out. So, all right, Connor, thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome. Good to see you guys again. All right, so we're going to do some decaling, as I said. I've got some lukewarm water here at the ready. I've got tweezers. We always want tweezers ready. Got some fresh X-Acto blades if we need to cut anything out, but I don't know if it's going to be a problem just yet. Let's see. Got some brushes to apply any sort of water, or if I need to use Solvacet. I'm going to try not to right off the bat use Solvacet. This stuff has been fairly strong. And come to think of it, I don't know that I have any microscale products. I used to, but I don't know if I have any available. So I do have, let's see. I think I've got Solvacet in the garage somewhere, but I've also got Mark Fit Strong, the Tamiya stuff, and I've got another bottle of Tamiya somewhere else. But I think this will do for now. All right. Sorry about all the sounds here. Go through my drawers. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what we've got for now. Okay. Oh, no, I see one more. I do like the micro scale products, the micro set and micro soul, the blue and the red bottles. Here's just some regular Mark Fit. Okay. So we can work with that as well. I do like those products. I haven't used them in a while. I was kind of relying on the Walther Solva set, and then the last couple of aircraft, the Solva set seemed to be really, I don't know, affect the decals. I'm not sure even if it was the setting solution that was affecting the decals, but I've decided to just kind of lay off it unless I really need it. So we'll see what happens. It does depend on the quality of the decals. These look amazing. I think these are Cartograph, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Cartograph, right out of the kit. I loved the look of them. I don't need to do aftermarket. I actually typically will do aftermarket decals. I'm a big fan of just doing something other than what comes in the box. Even if they have like 4 or 5 different versions, I'll still sometimes just go ahead and get aftermarket decals. But these looked really great. So yeah, we're gonna go with the French version. And let's see here. I'll show you in the instructions the plan. They have 7 different aircraft, which is great. I'm gonna go with this one here, the 2000C, French Air Force, Alsace, Dijon Air Base, 1985, so very early aircraft. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, I loved that monogram kit, and I just wanted to do something that was from the 80s or early 90s. And so here we are. All right, got handy little scissors here. I went ahead and cut the decal sheet into sections so it's a little bit easier to maneuver around and get to certain decals. And I went ahead and took some out already. I want to start with some of the larger decals. I try to save the stenciling for a little bit later in the process. I find that on aircraft, you would think that the stenciling would be down, and then that they would, if they had any sort of insignia, that they'd either move the insignia around the stenciling or just put it right on top of the stenciling. But what I find a lot of times is the actual markings of the aircraft are down, and then the stenciling will go. So if it needs to go on top of a decal, it'll go, or on top of the marking, it'll go on top of the marking. Okay, so I like to do these bigger ones first, get them out of the way, and then the stenciling, if it needs to, can go on top of any of those larger marks. I rarely run into that issue. There's only been a few aircraft where I've had that problem, and just decided just from now on, I'll always just do the larger ones first. So here we go. Let's go ahead and, yeah, let's just start with the numbers on the side of the aircraft. Okay, let me see if I can show you this here. Just put it in the water. I'm not sure how long these will take, so I'm just going to hold them here for a little bit, and I like to leave the decal only in as long as it needs to be. I understand that there's an adhesive on the other side of the decal, and that leaving the decal in the water for too long can actually remove the adhesive, which doesn't help with silvering. So, all right, let's take a look. I want to just use my fingers here and just kind of see if they move. Nope. It's a little longer. Like I said, the water is lukewarm. Not a big deal, but I find that decals tend to move off of the backing paper quicker when it's on the warmer side. So, okay, let's take a look here and see what we have. Yeah, got some movement. Good. It's not too long. All right. And what I like to do is, I need to kind of position things here a little better. My instructions on this side. All right. I like to put a little bit of water in this on the spot that I'm going to be working. And a little tricky to maneuver here. All right. I do have some Q-tips ready in case I need to, because I added too much water. Oh, that reminds me, I have these nice plastic, let's use these. Plastic tweezers. Less aggressive than the metal ones for decals. All right, and I like to have the water underneath, so it's sort of swimming in the water. And start to soak up some of the water as we go. Okay. Trying to hold the model delicately. And it's going to be right about there. Try to make sure it's somewhat level. All right, and then at this point, I'm going to try to push down and roll off of the model to get rid of any bubbles. I'm also trying not to move the decal if I can help it. I like to press down. Okay, that'll work. And set it aside for a second. And that's the process I use, the process I go through for putting down decals. Now it's just a matter of keep putting them down. All right, so let's do the same with the other one on the other side. I left off the engine, so I'm able to sort of tuck my finger into the exhaust here without damaging any details. So that worked out really well. I tried putting a wooden dowel so that I could hold the vehicle by the wooden dowel for painting, but what happens is all the pressure, of moving the model up and down, it started to crack at the bottom, so I decided that wasn't going to work for me. I had seen other people use that method, and I was like, oh, I don't want a big old seam along the tail end of the aircraft. All right, looks like it's right about there, judging from the instructions. Okay, and then roll out any bubbles. Apply pressure. All right, and Charlie GRS, have I ever built car models? No, but I have 3 in my stash, 2 or 3 in my stash, and I got them within the last couple of years. So obviously there's an interest to do some at some point. One is a, sorry, I'm trying to remember the names exactly. There's a Porsche 956 Le Mans. I've always loved the blue scheme of that, just looking at the box art. Tamiya kit, I think. Yeah, Tamiya kit. And another one is another Tamiya, I think it's a Ferrari Testarossa. I think that's right. And so I plan on building those at some point, but I am scared to death of cars. I don't know. I just don't know enough about cars. Then again, I don't know. How much do I know about aircraft and tanks? I don't know. It's just one of those things. Someday I'll get the guts to build those cars. I also really like the 71 purple Hemi Cuda. I just think that's a gorgeous car, and I know that I'm pretty sure Revell had a kit of that for years and years. Maybe it was AMT or something. I'd like to build one of those someday as well, and I'd like to own one, but that's a different story. All right, so let's go with this one now. This is going to be at the tail here. It says AMDBA. All right, whatever that means. Now, yeah, these are French aircraft, so I'm not going to exactly be able to understand some of this stuff. Maybe if you guys know what some of these translations are, that would feel free to chime in. Also, let me know, do you guys like to add a gloss coat before decals, or are you of the mindset where we just simply don't need any glossy surface? Let me know in the chat. Would like to know. Yeah, car models are hard as hell in my opinion. It's so hard to make something look shiny and flawless as opposed to dirty and beat up. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. You know, and then also, you know, you look at some of these engines and all of the detail that can go into them. Now, I'm not a modeler that will necessarily open up the hood and show a lot of the engine detail, but the 956, these Le Mans Porsche, I believe in the back window, if the back window, or no, the whole back section, I think is, oh, no, wait, no. I think the option, you can have an option of having it open and closed. And I've seen a lot of them open. So for some reason that there's this fear of like, okay, I'm going to need to have all of these wires and stuff. But no, if I can have it closed now I think about it, I'll probably be less worried about working on a car. But yeah, there's, you know, whether you're working on tanks or working on aircraft or working on cars, there's always going to be that thing that is kind of specific to that particular vehicle. You know, figure painting, right? There are things that you look for and things that you're expected to do, or things that you want to do in those particular genres, if you will. For tanks, you know, if you're not a fan of working with those tracks, or you're not a big fan of, you know, one color paint scheme and then tons of weathering, right? Then maybe tanks are going to be, that's going to be like the difficult thing with tanks. Aircraft, sometimes flashy camouflage, a lot of small decals, and then certainly working with like wheel struts, you know, where you need that really, really great alignment. If that's an issue for you, then aircraft are going to be a problem, you know, or even something as simple as like a canopy, making sure that the canopy is nice and clean, you know. And I guess cars would be a nice glossy finish generally, and just clean. Of course you can weather a car too, but yeah, I'm thinking that too. You're right. I think the Porsche probably shouldn't be my first car model. That's a really good call as well. Yeah, because there's gonna be a lot of decals and the paint has to be pristine, and I'm gonna want it to be pristine. So fair enough. Yeah. All right, let's get going. Let's keep going on this. Appreciate that. Oh no, you know, let's do this. I want to be consistent here. I want to stick with the bigger, flashier ones first. So let's go ahead and drop this one in. All right, this number 7. I like to make sure also that there is any sort of like dust or debris on the model just before I put the water on or the decal on. Yeah, we're getting there. So Connor, you dull coat once in a while before decals. So you mean you put the dull coat on and then you put the decals on afterwards? Because I'm talking about gloss coat. I've never, yeah. If you can let me know what you think. Yeah, aircraft seams are a nightmare. I agree. Car window trim is a nightmare. That's okay. Yep, and tank tracks. Yeah. Good call, Charlie. Yeah, seams. I mean, that's the name of the game too for aircraft. Absolutely right. Okay, so Connor, you put dull coat. Okay. All right. I guess maybe what you're doing then is you're protecting the paint, so you're not doing it right. You're not putting decals right on the paint. I guess that's the idea. And then Connor, if you could let me know, do you also use a decal setting solution with your decals? Oh, it's all you haven't had. Gotcha. That's fair. We've all been there, or we're all there at some point. Like, you just don't have the things that you need. Totally get it. All right, these decals, I am now realizing that they go in one direction. There's this little piece that hangs off the end. And my instructions are not showing really well, which Okay. Double check here. 2, 3, yeah. Okay, it looks like it's a banner, so it's pointing downward. Okay. Whew. That'd be lousy to have that as a mistake. These things upside down. All right, put a little water here. And I'm not at a great angle for you guys. Just kind of slide it off at this point. That'll work. I like that there's not a lot of decal trim around the edges. They've done a nice job of keeping it pretty close to the actual print. This needs to come down. And I'm trying to use the rivets to help me figure out exactly where the positioning of this decal should be. The only problem is sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced, but sometimes these diagrams on these decal sheets are not as accurate as you need them to be. So it's, you got to be kind of careful. I wasn't able to find a reference or picture of this one. This decal needs to be up and perpendicular to the ground, but then the riveting, I'm not sure if you can see here with the glare, but the riveting kind of works its way up. So I'm trying to avoid that angle. All right, I think that'll work. I'm not going to break out any sort of calipers or anything to get it right. I'm just going to eye it and call it a night. All right, same on the other side. Okay. I decided to stop work on the T80. Things just got a little bit busy doing 2 models at one time, and I decided to just come back to this one. This was actually the closest to being done, and I've got a contest coming up in June that I've mentioned before. And so I wanted to have another model ready. I've got probably about 6 or 7 going to the contest. And, okay, give me a second here. And so I've decided to just kind of fast track this one and get it, and focus on it, and get it done. Also, as I've mentioned, I'm a teacher, and we're wrapping up school pretty soon here. So I'm gonna have a lot more time to work on kits. I'm really excited about that. We get a summer break. Okay, I feel like it's still, all right, now here's what I wanna do. When I have a decal on one side and the other, I like to rock back and forth and see if they're relatively in the same spot. Okay, so what I'm kind of doing is just looking straight ahead and try to find something to, it's kind of hard to do in the camera, but I'm trying to do that back and forth just to see if they're somewhat level with each other. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Also, you can also go back from the back side too and do the same. It's a little tighter fit, actually. Yeah. Yep. All right, I'm happy with that. And there's not going to be much more, you know, as far as size of emblems, this is going to be it. These are the largest ones. I've got the French Air Force roundels. These will go on, a bunch of these will go on all over the aircraft, but it's, you know, that's pretty much it for color. And then just a lot of stenciling as well. So not the flashiest aircraft, but then again, I mean, the colors, the blue, right? This is why I love the Mirage so much, is this great French blue color. All right, and so, yeah, so the idea was to get this one ready for the contest. And I made my way over to a local hobby store and saw a kit that just, I was like, okay, I have to build this like next. And it's the I have it over here somewhere. The Hasegawa FA18C Marauders kit, 48 scale. I've never been a fan of the FA18. I don't know what it is. I built 16s, 15s, 14s, 114. And the FA18, I never really like got the passion for it. But for some reason I saw this kit and I was like, oh, that looks amazing. And I got the bug. So now I like the FA18 and I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna have fun with it. I already started taking some of the pieces off the sprue to kind of prepare. But again, I really don't want to jump on a second one right now. I want to get this one finished up for the contest. But I'm pretty sure that's gonna be my next build, is that FA18. Yeah, you hate the wings on the F-18, yeah. Yeah, they don't move like the F-14. They don't have that cool, like, almost like that almost like Delta wing look, like this one, or the F-16 kind of has like a Delta wing look. Yeah, the F-15, it's just that bulky, F-15's bulky looking. I love the F-15, especially the earlier versions. Yeah, I'm actually not a big fan of the F-15E. I built a Strike Eagle, but the F-15Cs and just the real early ones. I don't know. For me, it's the aircraft from the early '80s or the mid '80s. Yeah, the '80s, 1980s. Those are the aircraft that really just, as far as jets are concerned, those are the ones that really interest me. All right, we got a lot of comments here. I'm missing here. Charlie, you're gonna do a ship model someday? Yeah. That would be rather masochistic. I have a lot of respect for those ship modelers, man. That's amazing stuff. All right, Charlie, you do gloss coat, the decals, then matte coat. Yep. Yeah, I pretty much do the same. Although I will do a gloss coat after the decals. I like to make sure that they're leveled off. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll do a couple of coats of gloss around the decals to sort of build up the clear medium. And then if I'm feeling like it, I'll go ahead and sand down that area, and then it brings the decals more level. And so you don't get that sort of lifted look. Well, even though after you put a dull coat on, a lot of that goes away. But I know I'll go crazy sometimes with getting these decals to look like paint. Oh, thanks for that, Charlie. Yeah, the T80, I do enjoy it. It's a lot of construction, and I'm a fan of construction, but there was a lot of pieces on that turret, and I just got a little bit burnt out. It's actually sitting back there. It's almost, as far as construction is concerned, I'm probably 80% of the way through, maybe even a little more. But I'm at the point where, like, okay, I just need it to sit for a little bit. Yeah, decal symmetry is hard. Hasegawa makes some good kits. Absolutely, love the Hasegawa kits. It's funny too. I don't know. I don't think they're building anymore. Are they still manufacturing kits? I don't know. But they're amazing. Yeah, raised panel lines on a 76 scale Hasegawa F-14. That's unfortunate. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. There's some interesting new viewpoints about raised panel lines. I know a lot of people there are people out there who like them and think that they look more realistic than the scribed panel lines. And I will say there is something about scribed panel lines that just doesn't look right. It doesn't look like a real aircraft a lot of times. And then of course we deepen them, we add wash and we make them darker, so the kit looks less toy-like essentially. But there's something to be said about less seam lines. I don't know that I would ever go to the level of just leaving raised panel lines. That said, I did do the A37 Dragonfly. I've got it in my one of my display cases here. I loved it, and I just left the raised panel lines. It was from the old I'm trying to remember what that manufacturer was. It was a newer kit, and they used the molds, I think, from Monogram. I think it was a Monogram kit. And I just left it. And to this day, it doesn't bother me. I really like the build, so. Haskell is still out there. Okay, good. Oh, they do some car kits. I didn't know that. That's great. Yeah, exactly. The smaller F-18s are the way to go. Yeah, I agree with you. Right on. Use MarkFit for decals, Connor. Okay, cool. Yeah, I haven't worked with it a whole lot, these Tamiya decal solutions. As you can see, I'm not even using them now. I believe the MarkFit goes on first. Is that the case? Yeah, solution to where the area the decals applied, and then the MarkFit goes on after the decal has been sitting there. So basically like a decal, if I remember right, the decal set was the blue one and the decal sol is the red one. So it's kind of like that kind of combination. Anyway. All right. I want to see what's going on here. All right. When the decals are dried, I will come back and kind of stab at the rivets and break up the decal in that spot, and then use a setting solution to bring them into the rivets a little bit more so that detail stays there. Sometimes I'll even, if I have a seam, I'll kind of guide a sharp X-Acto blade along the seam, cutting the decal effectively, and then add more setting solution. All right. Yeah, the Tamiya decals are thicker. That's true. Yep. Microsol and set. Yeah. Okay, cool. Great. All right, let's keep at it. By the way, are you guys building at the moment, like right now? Let me know if you are, if you're building while I'm building. And if so, remind me or let me know what you're working on. Let's go ahead and put these on. Ejection seat, warning signs. Yeah. All right. While this one's drying, I'll show you what the work on the engine now, or the exhaust. Nacelle, yeah. So I've got the silver. I put black down first, and then silver, or not silver. I'm using. I'm not gonna be able to find it now that I'm talking about it. That's okay. I think it's a Mr. Color, one of their metallic colors. And then put on some gloss, and so I'll do a wash on it. And then I'm gonna wanna actually weather it quite a bit. Put some browns in there, do all kinds of stuff to really make it look realistic. And then I think in the end, I'm gonna put a flat coat on it. We don't really want these really shiny. And then I've got some wheels here. To paint these, I painted them NATO black first, airbrushed them NATO black first, and then used a circle template, like a Draftsman template, and covered up the black and then shot the silver, and it worked out great. And then I've got the canopy and the windscreen. They're painted, masked and painted on the inside there, the black, and they're masked on the inside as well. I like to mask both sides. I know that's like a little bit masochistic. I know some people will just mask the one side and then shoot the black first. I still find though when I do that, I mean, it doesn't really matter for the windscreen all that much, but if I always open my canopy And so it'll end up being like glossy here on the inside. I don't like that. So I just take the extra little few more minutes to mask. One of these days I'll show you guys how I mask. I actually do, I'll start on the edges. I'll go through it someday, but yeah, I go through the edges, making little strips. Sometimes I have to make them a little bit angled, so I'll kind of freehand it and kind of gauge it by what I'm seeing. Especially on these little corners, how you get these little, they're not straight, sharp corners, right? So you have to kind of work the scalpel. This tool here, I'll use a scalpel, and this allows me to be able to be curved as opposed to kind of jagged with an X-Acto knife. But I'll do a lot of that freehand, and then once I've got the edges down, then I'll start to cut up a bunch of squares and drop the squares, and they get successively larger as I need to cover up more of the material. So yeah, I do that on both sides. It takes me about, you know, for both of these, both sides probably took me about 20 minutes to a half hour. I figure it's like worth it, and it's fun. I always dread it, and I'm like, okay, now I have to mask them. But once I get going, I find that I'm having a good time with it, and I complete it a lot faster than I imagine it's going to take. So there are, of course, those pre-made masks. It's been hit or miss. I'm trying to think back. I used the pre-made masks for OV10 Bronco. Great kit, by the way, that ICM kit. I loved it. I used, I can't remember what the company was called. They're all over the web though. And it wasn't like an Edward or anything like that. And they just didn't fit. Like I bought, you know, spent $10 or whatever, and I'm putting them on. I'm like, these do not fit. So it's just kind of hit or miss with those pre-made ones. I'm just at the point where I don't need to spend money on it. I just need some Tamiya tape, and I'm good to go. Yeah, okay, let's see what you guys are working on here. All right, Tamiya 48 P51. I love that. Also building a 48 Tamiya Churchill tank. Great, fantastic. I don't know that I've ever built that P51 kit, but I understand it's excellent and has always been excellent. Working on a Dragon M4 Sherman with deep weighting kit from Verlinden. A lot of hack slash before. I'm having a hard time reading that word. Not designed for the Dragon kit, but got it together. Okay, cool. Good for you. Wow. Dragon Sherman, yeah. I've got one of the Asukas, the M4. I'm trying to remember which one it is. M4A1, the early one. I love the look of the rounded Sherman, where it's rounded on the glacis plate. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? The front of it. I like the early ones, M4A1s. It's everything. I like the early versions of the vehicles. I don't know what that's about. I don't know where that comes from. But yeah, I'll finish that at some point. A good friend of mine bought that kit for me, and I've been insisting to myself that if somebody buys you a kit, like you got to build it, and you got to build it in a reasonable amount of time. So I got to get back to that one for sure. And I understand the Asuka is considered, you know, some of the best, the most up-to-date versions of those vehicles. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about a lot of kits, you know, and I don't know about you guys, but my stash, it's just exponentially getting larger. So let me know in the chat what your stash is like. All right, let's see here. Right about there, okay. Okay, be right about here. The gloss I use is Mission Models. It's their only product that I actually really liked. I tried to get into using their products and just, you know, you have to do, God, the word is totally eluding me right now. You have to do, Mamma mia, I tell you. What's that paint? The first paint coat that you have to do in a lot of kits. Anyway, I'm just drifting today. It's Saturday night. It's all good. But you know, you have to, there's like a certain way of working with their paints that's just a little bit too limiting for me. A little bit too, they're a little too sensitive. And I just don't like that. Every time I consider what paints to work with, I always end up going back to Tamiya and their acrylic lacquers. I love the strength of these paints. But the Mission Models gloss I really, really liked. And I use their thinner. They say you can use water. Primer, okay, that's the word I was looking for. Primer, you have to use primer with Mission Models. And I just don't like that. But anyway, I use their thinner, and they say that you can use water, but I haven't had good luck with that. But their thinner works great, and you know, it comes out real nice. Rock hard too when it dries. Okay, I think we're good on this one. It's a little bit lower. I think it's okay. That looks right. Okay, good. Again, I'm kind of trying to figure out left and right to see if they look aligned. Yeah, a little more color on the vehicle. That's good. All right. All right, I think I'm gonna go. $20 kits in your stash, Connor. 3 kits going at the same time. Yeah. 20's good. Let's see. 5 half-built kits in my closet. Yeah, those half-built kits, man. I don't know about you, but for me, I was doing aircraft like exclusively up until COVID hit, up until quarantine. And then it was like armor. I got into armor in a big way. But I would, every third aircraft model or so, from when I was a teenager on up to a couple years ago, every third model or so, I would stop at the point where the construction's done, and then now I've got to kind of reset and get my airbrush going. And I was using Model Master paints at the time, you know, and a Pache H airbrush, the single action, you know. And it was always such a headache to get the airbrush to work that I would just stop. You know, I would stop on a lot of the models, just stop, put them back in the box, be like, okay, when I'm ready to airbrush, I'll take it back out. And I still to this day, I have models just from those years just sitting on the shelf. I think we call them shelf queens. I've heard that term thrown about. Yeah. And I don't know that I'll ever go back to those, which is sad too, because I'm building differently now than I built, you know, 5-10 years ago. So it's tricky. It's tricky when they get to that halfway point and you're not motivated to go further. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen with the T80. Gundam, cool. Yeah, that's exactly it. You're not a Gundam builder, but your friend got you a nice kit. And so you're like, you know what? Let's go for it. Yeah. Speaking of F-18, I was, oh man, this was, Mike, you'll know this guy. I'm forgetting his last name right now. Steve. Passed away a couple years ago. Oh, how come I can't remember his last name? Oh, just the nicest guy. And he would throw raffle tickets at you. I mean, just, you know, he didn't run the raffles, but he would always sit at the raffle table and then be like, he would win a bunch of prizes, and he'd be like the first person that was nearby. He'd be like, "Here, you go get what you want." And he did that. He did that for me, and it was the end of the raffles, the big kit that everybody wanted. It was the Academy 32nd scale FA-18. And I was like, "Are you sure?" You know, this was like 10 years ago. "Are you sure? I can't do this." He's like, go ahead. And his wife would egg us on and, you know, be like, "Yeah, go ahead and get what you want," you know, and oh my gosh. So I walk up there and I get this massive, you know, kit, and everybody was like, "What?" You know. And that's one of those kits where I actually got about a third into it, and I had to put it away. But that's one of those kits where it's like, I feel I have to do it. He has since passed, he and his wife. And one regret I have is I didn't get to finish it and show him. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people do that for kids at shows. Absolutely. My son and my daughter, at the last contest we were at, people were like handing them, you know, their tickets. And it was like, "Okay, go up, get what you want," you know, and just, it's great. And I've done that too. It's like, you get to a point where you're like, there's nothing I want, you know, and it's not to put down anything that's on the table. It's just, I don't need it. I've got, you know, either I've got the stuff already or I know I'm not going to work on it. And you just kind of hand stuff out to people going by. It's great. That is so much fun to do. That's one of the reasons I love contests, is just that sort of, that lack of greed, you know, that sort of selflessness. And that's one of the things I love about this hobby and the people who are involved in it. Yeah, you know, I would say 20 is a rookie number. That's fair. I would agree with those people as well, but it's, you know, we all start from somewhere. I don't have the numbers that I think a lot of people have. I don't have, my wife would say I have a lot of kits and I have too many kits, but I look at my stash, I probably have probably 50 or 60. And those are numbers where people would go, "That's nothing." Like I know, I know some of these guys, they've got like, you know, an entire room dedicated to their stash. So yeah, that's fair. It's funny. You're disciplined these days with a stash. I used to have a lot of kits waiting to be built. Now I only have like 2 or 3. That's great. Yeah. That's good. It's good. I think it's good to have that sort of discipline. At some point you go, "You know what, I have to know my limits." But on the other hand, I think a lot of these guys, and I'm kind of thinking this too, when we retire, you know, and we just want to make sure, that like if the world goes to S, you know, and that we've got stuff to work on. Because, you know, when I retire, I've got, in my head, it's like 24/7 model building. My wife's not happy about that concept, but that's where I'm like, and it's interesting too, because obviously the older we get, you know, the more our sight goes, you know, our hands maybe get a little shaky. We're probably not going to be on the top of our game at that point. So that's something else to think about too. And then of course, it's likely that manufacturing of kits will continue on. You know, it may take different forms. It may, you know, but it's not to, you know, who's to say that like, just because I have a stash, that model kits aren't going to be available. So I don't know. It's funny. It's funny to kind of think about that. Paint stash. That's interesting. Okay. I've got this. It's sitting over here, but I have a cart that I got cut from like Michael's or something, and I've got a bunch of Tamiya paints on that. And then over here I've got some Vallejo model color paints that I've recently collected because I use them for stowage and for things like ejection seats and that sort of thing. So stuff where I don't need to like handle them a lot, you know, because again, the paint comes off. That's why I like acrylic lacquer. Kit stashes happen because you never know when a kit. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's true too. We don't know when they're going to be out of production. And, you know, looking back to this Hasegawa kit, you know, I think it was from the early 2000s, like 2004 or 5 or something. And I don't know, maybe the mold was even older than that, because I know they did a whole bunch of FA18 versions. And I'm fairly certain it's actually older than early 2000s. I look at the way it looks. It's very, I wouldn't say it's fine detail. I would say that it's a little bit like soft in some areas. But again, thinking about how seams really look on the real vehicles, I looked at it and I'm like, I'm actually really happy with this, with the lighter detail here. But yeah, I look at that and I go, you know, I don't want the latest and greatest always, you know. Those Hasegawa kits, I'm gonna want to keep them. And I'm glad to hear that Hasegawa's still kicking. That's really great. That's a company I think that deserves to have the opportunity to continue to make great models. Sort of, you know, like Tamiya. Tamiya has just been great for so long, you know. And all these other companies come up, you know, and it's nice that these sort of legend companies are still able to be viable. Yeah, absolutely the deal. Yeah. The Hasegawa kit, I think you can find it on eBay or something for about $60, $70. I got it for, it was a little bit of discount too, around $30. And so I was happy with it. I got it as well as a Hasegawa P40E Warhawk sitting around here somewhere. I'll build that one at some point as well. Yeah. And it had metal landing gear, and it has a bunch of PE pieces. I don't know if I'll use them all, but you know, it stood out as like enough upgrades and enough, you know, there was enough reason there for me to get it at that, especially at that price. Yep. All right. I'm going to jump in the deep end here and start to apply some of this. Which one are we going to do here? Should we do Mark Fit Strong? All right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to apply some of this Mark Fit. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to shake it up. I just shook it. Let's see what it says. Apply, do not touch until completely dry. Yeah. Poison control, etc. Take care, use it with some types of decals. Affect painted areas, yeah. Especially acrylic paints. All right. You know, let me double check. It says that it's stronger than Mark Fit, which I agree. I understand that. Apply Mark Fit once again and do not touch. Okay, so they're saying you can apply it on top of the decal. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go with the less aggressive solution first. Kind of see what I can get. And I'm gonna put it on this danger sign here, because if I ever needed to replace a decal because it didn't work, these would be easier, I think, to get. All right. And I'm supposed to touch it by like just. I'm not actually touching the decal. I'm taking up some of the excess. Okay. Now I'm going to leave that one. And I'm not even going to do the other one yet until I've kind of I can kind of see how it behaves. Okay. And I feel confident it's going to work fine. These are new decals. The paint is dry. Okay, I'm just overly cautious at this point in my life with these decals. And I've got a lot to do. So hope you guys are having a good time. Yeah, it's fun to just talk for me. I really have a good time talking about this stuff with you guys, so hope you're having a good time too. All right, let's do a couple more, and then I'm probably gonna call it a night I'm not going to do this too long. And I just wanted to let you know, my plan initially was to do live stream and sort of do it regularly every Friday. I don't think that's going to work, although it could be easier during the summertime. But I think for my, like who I am, I think it's better if I just kind of like an impulse, like, okay, we're going to do it tonight, or we'll do it in a couple of days, you know, but maybe not every Friday. Like I said, with my free time coming up, I don't see any reason I couldn't do it a couple of times a week. Maybe even during the day. Whether anybody's able to jump on, that's fine, you know, whatever. I think I'm going to be a little bit more fluid and not try to be so rigid, because it just doesn't work for my schedule. And sometimes I feel inspired to do a live stream, sometimes I don't. So we'll see, you know. But I think the point is I'm not going to be so structured in its schedule. One thing, you know, if you guys ever decide to do this sort of thing your own, one of the things I've learned is you got to like keep it fun. You know, the moment this hobby becomes a job, I've talked about this before, I think we run into problems. So yeah, I'm going to try to keep it fun for me. And I hope you guys understand that. All right, let's get these boring AMD BA decals on. Let them sit. And I'm going to start getting ready to cut up some more interesting decals. All right, let's see here. All right, what I should be doing as I go along here is kind of putting an X in these instructions as I've completed them. Use something like this, just light. I'll be finishing those in a moment here, just so I can make sure I get all of the decals done. 12, 30, 7, and the 21. Okay. Oh, come on. There we go. All right. Let's see if we get some movement on these. Yep, okay. Make sure I'm on screen here. Panel lining, good question. I am going to do a wash. That's the plan. Yeah, so after the decals are down, I need to put some very good coats of gloss. Can't quite tell. It looks like it should be forward actually. Okay. And yeah, and then I'm planning on not just straight up a dark black or anything. I want to do kind of a medium gray, and I think that'll work nicely. Yeah, that's the plan. And then after all of that is dry, then we'll do a flat coat, and then I'll start some real kind of weathering, but really it's just going to be a matter of lightening and darkening up some panels and stuff. On these vehicles, they're around these areas, there seemed to be a darker version of the color, like a stain almost around them. And so I'm going to try to depict that. You can also see that there's a little bit of, not with the glare. Oh, let's not do that. Let's not grab it from the fin. Okay. All right. I was holding the whole thing from the flap. It's not going to be good. It's a little bit lighter here, a little bit like almost like haphazard, and I like to kind of airbrush that way, so it already looks as if I've done some sort of pre or post shading, which I typically try to stay away from. However, I will say on this FA18 coming up, I am planning to do, I'm likely to do pre-shading, just because of the nature of these Navy aircraft. But these ones are pretty, they're pretty clean. They're not subjected to the salt of the ocean. Let me see if I can show you. Here's a real close-up of one. There's a lot of grime here. This is a vehicle that's being worked on, right? Let me get some other really good shots. There's some great shots in this book. I really recommend it. Here's the underside of the vehicle. So I'll try to depict that with the panel lines, with the washes. A couple of streaks here and there. And then you can see here on this vehicle, there's some, some staining. And then just a little bit like lighter in some areas and then darker in some areas. And so I'm gonna try to go for a little bit of that subtle effect with oil paints. Let's see here. This one shows very nicely how soft some of these camouflage patterns are. So I'm not too far off. And they do look, the blue does look lighter in these photos. Some of them are darker. I've noticed a lot of variation in these aircraft. I initially was going for lighter ones. You can see this one here is quite a bit darker too. Down here, okay. So I think I got pretty close. Also, if you work with glosses and dull coats, you know that gloss makes the colors darker. And once you do the flat coat, all of a sudden everything kind of lightens up. So I'm pretty confident that I've got pretty good shade of blue here. And if I need to adjust, I find that going from the darker color, if I'm working with oil paints, I need to adjust without using filters or anything, but just sort of bring the blue lighter. It's easier to go lighter than it is to go darker. So that's my plan. The other issue to think about too when we do washes is it will make the colors darker as well. So all of these things I was kind of taking into consideration when picking this color. There's going to be this sort of give and take. There's going to be like, it's going to get darker and it's going to get lighter and it's going to get darker. So I'll play around with it. I think a lot of adjusting will happen once I start working in the oil paint phase near the end, or at the end actually. Yeah, F-18 exactly is Star Wars dirty. I like that. Yeah, it's a bit more gray blue to me. I would agree. I think this one is a little bit more blue, but again, I'm going to tone that down with oil paints. And the wash is going to kick this blue down as well. I've noticed that happens quite a bit. So we'll see. I'm going to get as close as I can, and then I think at that, whatever it is, it is. Yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm liking it, feeling good. Thanks for your support too, I appreciate it. With the panel, the washes, I tend to, I've got some dust here I need to take care of. With the washes, I tend to just kind of do a sludge all over the vehicle. With this one, I might try to be a little bit more strategic in just aiming for the actual panels themselves. We'll see though. We'll talk about that in another video, I'm sure. All right. Oh, did I leave? Oh, we're good. Those ones are done. Okay. I need to get the color out. Asking for 49. Yes, make sure it's right. Okay, good. All right, we're going to go for the roundels. Let's just do it. These last two on the end here. And then I think after these decals, we'll wrap it up. I got kind of a big day tomorrow. I conduct a local community band, and we have one of our final concerts of the season tomorrow, so I'll be conducting them in a concert. So good idea to get a little bit of sleep before. Let's try to stay away from the metal. Stick with the plastic ones. Anybody use any new tools lately that they're really like excited about? Anything we should know about? I've got some micro tweezers coming from Annie's. I think that's how you pronounce it. He does a lot of like detailing, aftermarket detailing. A lot of like cockpit detailing work as well. And so he's got some really, really small tweezers I'm really kind of looking forward to trying out. Oh, not quite ready yet. I don't like to leave water on the vehicle for too long. Sometimes I've had it stain a little bit, and that's not fun. All right, I think we're good to go. So let's apply more. Should be up a little bit higher here. It is recommended to just slide the decal off of the backing paper rather than lifting it from the backing paper. It helps prevent bubbles, which of course create the silvering. I can't always do that though. All right. Again, I'm going to roll and apply some pressure. Sometimes I will tend to do too many decals in one session, and then I come back the next day and I didn't pay enough attention to the decals I put down, and so silvering did occur. Okay, so I'm kind of at a point where I like to like just do a little bit at a time. You know, be able to spend some time paying attention to those, treating them if they need to be adjusted or if they need any sort of setting solutions. All right, see if I can slide it off. There we go. Okay. Notice they should come forward a bit. Let's see where that one's at. Okay. For the FA18, I got some res kit afterburners. That was the only thing in the kit where, no, it wasn't the only thing. It was one of the things in the kit where I was like, I could get something that would look better. And then a couple days ago, I decided to just go ahead and get a resin ejection seat. I think it's an Aries set. And I got one more thing, and it's eluding me right now. It's okay. So that one will not be out of the box, but I am really happy with a lot of aspects of the kit. All right, I think that'll work. I think the placement's good. I'm not gonna fuss with it too much. Now this one's worrying me a little bit. It's starting to get a little bit darker. I can see the silvering starting to happen already when I put it at an angle. Let's see. Let me see if I can show you the angle. Yeah, you can see with that glare. I don't know if you can tell, but on the inside of the decal, silvering will occur. So I need to definitely attack that one. And I'm going to go with the lighter stuff first. it's unfortunate because these decals, right, they'll put them as, you know, they'll have basically 4 numerals here, or a numeral and then 2 letters and that little hyphen there. Whereas that could have been 4 decals, but they put them all into one strip. So we have a great, you know, area of just clear decal. If I took my time a little bit more, I might have cut them out. But I don't know. I don't know that I would. I think I can save it with the setting solution. I'm glad I caught that though. So what I needed to do is let it dry and then kind of see, oh yeah, we're going to need to take care of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this to all the decals at this point. Okay, silvering can happen on these. It's pretty clear. Don't want too much on it. All right, and then I'll let this dry. And if I'm noticing any more issues, then I'll move on to the next stronger solution. And I really don't want to touch them. I'm trying to just get off the excess that's dripping around them. You don't want the setting solution to sit on the model either if it doesn't need to be there. I've noticed staining from solutions as well. All right. Yeah, you can see it wrinkling good. So it's definitely affecting the decal. Right there. But I don't want to touch it. Just let it be. Gonna take a drop off of here. Just a little bit on the ends. All right. And I think with that, we're gonna wrap it up today. Let's take a look at your final statements here. Finally got a decent set of nippers. Yeah, Tammy nippers, yeah. Yeah, I'm guessing these side cutters here, these Tammy ones. Charlie, yeah. I got a couple sets of these. They're amazing. One thing I did notice is, you know, like every cutter, they're gonna get dull after a while. So I do actually file mine down. I've had them for long enough so I can get them pretty sharp. So at some point you might want to get to the point where you do get them even sharper. But they're great. Yeah, they're great right out of the box. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining me. It's been fun. It's always fun. And I'm going to try to keep it that way. So I'll see you in the next one, whenever that is. Likely for the next couple of weeks. When I do this, it'll be on the weekends. Once summer kicks in, we'll see. You know, every time I come out here, I could probably throw up a live stream and just see who can join, okay? Good to see all of you, and thanks again for participating. Have a great night, guys. All right, bye. Hang on. Yeah, hang on. Charlie, I'm gonna respond. Yeah, those are the same ones. Yeah.